Hello everyone. You're about to hear a synopsis of the film 84 Square Meters. Enjoy! In 2021, the South Korean capital experienced a real estate boom. Woo-sung had to pay significantly more to buy his apartment. More precisely, he took out a mortgage. He was incredibly happy when he moved into his new home with his fiancée. But 3 years have passed. Woo-sung lies drunk on the floor, covered in trash and bank notices. The neighbors upstairs are constantly making noise. Housing prices have dropped significantly over the past 3 years. At work, everyone is bullying Woo-sung, especially his boss. Because of his mortgage, Woo-sung was left without a promotion and a fiancé. Our hero has a friend in the same boat. Sang-woo is a crypto investor, though not the luckiest one. Woo-sung spends more than he earns, so to save money, he charges all his gadgets at work and picks up the food left by his co-workers after their shifts. The neighbors below constantly leave notes on their door asking them to be quiet, even though the noise is constantly coming from somewhere above. After work at the office, Woo-sung heads off to his second job as a courier. At home, he doesn't turn on the lights and carries a flashlight everywhere. At 4:30 a.m., Woo-sung is awakened again by the vibrations of his neighbor's phone. A strange woman also appears, the same one who leaves notes on the door. She begs Woo-sung to be quiet. The woman threatens that her husband will come upstairs next time, then runs into the apartment and makes sure no one is making noise upstairs. As soon as the woman leaves, the neighbors from the 15th floor start making noise again. Woo-sung goes upstairs and meets a burly man. The sullen man denies any involvement. Jin-ho dispatched the night visitor to deal with the people living upstairs. This neighbor has children but also has noise-canceling carpets. An elderly couple with a dog lives on the 17th floor. The old man also uses a walker. Complaints about the noise infuriated the pensioner and he sent Woo-sung away. Well, only the penthouse remained. It turned out that the owner of almost all the apartments in the building lived there, all but Woo-sung's. The woman handed the overnight visitor an envelope of money, asking him to be patient while she evicted the strange tenants from the 13th floor. Yun-hwa told him that a new subway line would soon open in their neighborhood, and housing prices would skyrocket. When Woo-sung went down to his floor, he discovered that the tires on his bicycle were slashed. At work, Sang-woo suggested a thread to a friend. He knows a guy who makes money from signals. Tonight at midnight, J.B. Cohen will fall to 815, and a week later it will soar by 800% before collapsing to zero. Woo-sung was interested, but where would he get the money? He was already deeply in debt. But if Woo-sung could get 80 million won and make 720 million won out of it, he could completely pay off his mortgage. That evening, J.B. Cohen did indeed go downstairs. Woo-sung hesitated, staring at his phone. The man finally decided to take the desperate step after being knocked off his bicycle. Woo-sung went to a real estate agency and declared he wanted to sell his apartment urgently. Only one buyer had been found, but he would buy it even cheaper than the market price. But he was willing to give 85 million as a down payment right now. If Woo-sung canceled the deal, he would have to return 170 million to the buyer. But that was no big deal, because he expected to make 4 times that amount. The money arrived in his account, and the man rushed home to buy J.B. Cohen's with it. His legs gave out on the stairs. Woo-sung crawled home and called a friend. The friend told him to buy crypto only when its price dropped to 815 won. Today, Woo-sung even ignored the noisy neighbors. The numbers jumped back and forth until they finally settled at 815. Woo-sung clicked the buy button and didn't get up from his chair until the morning. J.B. Cohen had doubled in value and was still rising. All he had to do was wait until August 15th and sell the crypto before 8:15 a.m. Then came the crash. Woo-sung's spirits were so lifted that he even cleaned his apartment. His phone is always close by. Woo-sung put earplugs in his ears and fell into a peaceful sleep. He didn't hear the intruder break into his apartment. It had been especially noisy that night. Today, the neighbor upstairs came to Wo-sung himself. Wo-sung thinks someone is spying on him and trying to frame him. Jin-ho threatened to kill the neighbor if he didn't stop. Suddenly, Wo-sung realized he was actually being filmed. He started to break into apartment 1301, but no one answered because the neighbor downstairs had gone outside for a smoke. He told our hero a story about how one neighbor killed another because of noise, and the threatening neighbor pulled out a knife when they entered the elevator. Frightened, Woo-sung nearly shit himself and ran home. The constant noise and stress over cryptocurrency had made our hero paranoid. Everyone was making noise like crazy. Woo-sung took some sleeping pills and fell fast asleep. He even slept through the moment his mother arrived. Woo-sung was completely out of his mind. Waking up, he rolled out of bed and glanced at his phone screen. The profit was now 480%. He needed to wait another day. Woo-sung gave up on saving money, turned on the air conditioner, and ordered food delivery. Suddenly, a terrible roar was heard. Woo-sung went berserk. Everyone in the building was breaking into his apartment. As soon as he started making noise, he immediately disappeared. Yunhwa arrived and calmed the crowd. Woo-sung and the neighbor downstairs began blaming each other. The residents agreed to check both their apartments. The man let in the manager and the athlete. The terrible roar was heard again. Its source was quickly found. A speaker was installed in Wo-sung's closet, and a phone with a recording of construction noise was connected to it. The neighbors downstairs, you say? You piece of shit! Wo-sung realized that the neighbor had somehow gotten in and set him up. The long-haired guy suddenly kicked Wo-sung. He was ready to defend himself. The man overdid it and slammed his head into the wall. The police arrived just then and arrested the hooligan for assault. The biggest problem was that the poor guy only had 7 minutes to sell the cryptocurrency. Wo-sung asked for the phone, but its screen was completely shattered. After this, the man pretended to shit himself and tried to escape the station, but was subdued. The chief emerged from his office. Woo-sung furiously threw off the cops and barricaded himself in there. The man was able to log into his account through the police chief's computer. He could have sold his Jeba coins right then and there and made a 650% profit. However, the cryptocurrency is steadily heading toward 80%. Woo-sung held his ground for quite some time. He was about to hit the sell button, but then he was shot with a taser. However, the enraged man somehow managed to hold on. With superhuman effort, Woo-sung continued to move the mouse. Unfortunately, a passing cop accidentally pulled the cable out of the outlet. Woo-sung finally lost consciousness. 4 hours later, Yunhwa came for him. She confirmed that the neighbor was to blame, not Woo-sung. The upset man wandered home. People around him were cheering. A new subway line had opened, meaning housing prices would skyrocket. However, Woo-sung no longer owned the apartment. Returning home and turning on his laptop, the loser discovered that Jebicoin had crashed, and he had only lost 75 million. The poor guy burst into tears and wrote a suicide note. "Mom, I'm sorry, life is so unfair to me." Woo-sung went to the window, but then heard a noise from below. The man grabbed a mallet, intending to take the bastards with him, but instead he clashed with his athlete neighbor. The athlete finally realized the noise wasn't coming from Woo-sung's apartment. Jin-ho promised to help his neighbor figure it out. The two went downstairs and found apartment 1301 open. They searched the place but found nothing, and the noise wasn't stopping. It turned out the apartment was registered to the same man Woo-sung sold his apartment to. Apparently, the couple from the penthouse are trying to force everyone out of the building so they can sell their apartments at skyrocketing prices. While the athlete distracted Young-ho, Woo-sung began searching her apartment and soon found the man from the real estate agency. Young-hwa chased Woo-sung away. The man is convinced the couple is hiding something behind the steel door with a fingerprint scanner. We wasted a lot of time arguing, even though those jerks are to blame. Woo-sung returned home and turned on the phone they planted on him. It turned out it was connected to Wi-Fi, If Woo-sung finds the router, he'll figure out who the phone belongs to. The man started running from floor to floor and realized the hotspot was in his new friend's apartment. Jin-ho had set him up for some reason. Woo-sung went to a sauna with the creepy guy and discreetly switched his apartment keycard. Jin-ho is covered in tattoos and looks like a gangster. In reality, he's a freelance journalist who filmed videos in dangerous places and sold them to TV channels, but he never became famous. Jin-ho dreams of making a report that will shock all of Korea. Woo-sung rushed home and broke into his neighbor's apartment. There he found Wi-Fi routers and a strange room covered in notes and photos. It turns out the journalist is building a home for their penthouse neighbor. She used to be a prosecutor and took bribes. This guy hacked the smart home system and now has access to the cameras in every apartment, and can even open and close any lock. The next room had been converted into a server room. There were also dozens of speakers there, which were creating that terrible noise. Jin-ho returned home. It turns out he was filming Woo-sung with a hidden camera. I just want to kill them. The crazy bastard. A journalist is planning to portray Woo-sung as a maniac who will apparently kill his neighbors. Woo-sung waited until the athlete fell asleep and was about to bludgeon him with a hammer, but finally stopped. Then the doorbell rang. A crazy neighbor from downstairs burst in and started smashing the sound system. It turns out the two were in cahoots. Jin-ho had been paying the neighbor to help harass Woo-sung. But now, her husband, dying, hit the wall too hard. The woman began smashing hard drives containing recordings, for which Jin-ho bludgeoned her to death with a hammer. Jin-ho realized the neighbor was hiding under his bed and lured him out, then repeatedly hit himself in the head with the hammer. Allegedly, Woo-sung attacked him after killing the neighbor. The maniac curses developers who build houses illegally and the politicians who help them, such as former prosecutor Jung-hwa. Woo-sung was on the brink of death, but managed to persuade the madman not to kill him. He'll help him deal with Jung-hwa. The conspirators dragged the neighbor's body into the penthouse. Now she'll be a maniac driven mad by the noise. Jin-ho cut the gas line in the kitchen and then tied up the couple. He beat the man with a hammer just in case. Jin-ho revealed that a year ago he'd been preparing a story about the shoddy construction in that residential complex, and it was Jung-hwa who had prevented him from leaving. Jin-ho is certain that behind that door she's hiding a ledger, a list of bribes taken by her husband, a construction supervisor. While Jin-ho was busy with her husband and that room, Woo-sung began to untie Jung-hwa's hands. Suddenly, the maniac screamed. There was no ledger in that room, only a pile of money. Woo-sung ran for the gas pistol kept in Jung-hwa's office, but he'd forgotten to take the safety off. Jin-ho began to beat the traitor, but Jung-hwa took the pistol and shot Jin-ho right in the face. The woman ordered her husband to finish off the maniac and locked herself in the room. However, her husband couldn't handle him, and was killed. He only managed to stab Jin-ho in the stomach. Now Jung-hwa demands that Woo-sung finish off the maniac, but he himself fell dead. Jung-hwa, with a satisfied expression, showed the logbook, which was lying in plain sight. She's no better than the maniac. Jung-hwa was about to kill the witness, but she was strangled by Jin-ho, who had only pretended to be dead. His strength had failed him. Jin-ho thought Woo-sung would help him and show the logbook to the journalists, but he merely turned on the gas. Woo-sung will burn all the documents, along with Jin-ho's bodies and the maniac. When the man came downstairs, an explosion rocked the house. After the explosion, Woo-sung moved from the capital to live with his mother in the countryside. It's beautiful and peaceful there, with no neighbors, so he can finally rest and get a good night's sleep. But that same night, the man returned to Seoul, as he had his own apartment in the capital. Unfortunately, Woo-sung was unable to resolve his financial problems, so he was forced to play Squid Game number 388.